So I've been asked to introduce business management, marketing and tourism management for prospective students. My name's Ian Harris, and what we're going to do in this brief video presentation is just give you some underlying information that will help you make the right decision for your degree choices, a considered decision. So we're going to introduce how universities and business schools in this instance create business and management schemes. We'll then take a look at the individual elements of the degree structure. We'll look at some accolades and examples of successful students, and of course we will outline the major degree pathways and new degrees associated with what you're passionate about studying. The first question is, well, how does a university design your degree? Well, the important thing to consider here is that whichever business school you actually are evaluating, every business school has its content dictated by the UK government. Degrees in business are intended to be employable, so it means that the skills and competences that you generate in those degrees need to be competent for the industries in which you're likely to carve your careers. And to make sure that that happens, the UK government dictates the actual content boundaries. That doesn't mean that there's no flexibility in how we deliver that content, but the fundamental truth is that a business degree from Aberystwyth is pretty much identical to a business degree from other universities. So a degree in marketing from Exeter is fundamentally the same as a degree in marketing from Aberystwyth Business School. And here's an overview. This is looking at a common first year in Exeter, Bath and Aberystwyth business schools. And you can see that, basically, even though they have slightly different titles, the content, I would say, in 85% of the degree schemes across Exeter, Bath and Aberystwyth is identical. Data analytics is just another word for statistics. Business data analysis is just another word for data analytics or statistics. And even within business and society, there would be an awful lot of economic and marketing principles for Bath. So the overlap is incredibly solid. So university business schools seek to position themselves as different. So whichever business school you're considering applying to, or you have applied to, they will seek to differentiate. It's a marketing term for making them seem to be different. And the way that most business schools do this is they will say that we have the top 4 researchers in the UK for this particular discipline, or we have these links with certain industry bodies. And they spend a lot of their money and their reputational capital in positioning themselves in that way. The ABS purpose is basically to be exemplary educators, to provide you with the very best teaching and learning experience, and the university and the business school invest heavily here. And our outcomes in teaching, learning, experience, satisfaction and graduate employability attest to this investment. We are incredibly highly ranked across the major blue chip industry measures for teaching, for learning, for our student experience, our student satisfaction and our graduate outcomes. It's something that we're very proud of as a business school. So how is your degree structured? Well, there's 2 main ways into taking a degree with Aberystwyth Business School. You come in as a foundation year student, i.e. you didn't get the A-level grades that you wished, but you still wish to study at a high quality business school. In this case, we would offer you a foundation year. You would have 6 modules of 120 credits. These would be assessed by coursework and examination, and on successful completion you would just pass into year 1. If you do meet the UCAS tariff for your degree scheme, then you will follow year 1 through to year 3. Now year 1 is a acclimatization year. It uses something called a common first year. It's assessed through 6 20 credit modules, 3 in semester 1, 3 in semester 2. Some of those modules are core. That means you have no choice, you have to take them, they're fundamental. Some are elective. Again, like the foundation year, it's pass, proceed and assessment is by coursework and examination. Now, the only fundamental difference when you move into year 2 and year 3 is that year 2 will contribute 33.3% to your final degree classification, or 1/3 of your final degree will be evaluated against your performance in year 2. And in year 3, 2/3, 66.6%, will contribute. And again, you have core, you have elective. One of the decisions we made as a business school is to really focus on what the industry required from the core modules to ensure that you as students got the right training. Lots and lots of business schools will offer lots of elective modules. And the problem with those elective modules is they're not necessarily the modules and the content areas that UK and world employers really want their graduates to enter their business with. It's much more of an academic is interested in a subject area, let's create a module, whereas we turn that around and we say, what does industry want? And we make sure that we provide that to you in a highly effective manner. So the main schemes, what are known as single honours schemes, so just one scheme, would be business and management, M122, business finance, marketing, digital marketing, tourism management, and adventure tourism management. And they're the core elements of the business school offer. And basically within these domains there are 3 disciplines. There's marketing, there's tourism management, and there's business and management. And those 3 disciplines are very interchangeable, and we allow students, if they want to specialise in certain areas, to take modules within those areas, because that's where they want to carve their career out. But the important thing is at the end of semester 1, which would be at the end of January, or at the end of semester 2, which would be at June, it is possible to change your degree scheme. So if you think that you want to do business management, but then after taking marketing you think it's a fascinating subject, or tourism management because you're really sort of stimulated by it, we allow you, because of that common first year, to change your degree scheme. We also have some new degree programs. Like any vibrant organisation, we develop new programs of activity, and in the last 15 months we've introduced these programs: BSc with business and psychology, marketing psychology, economics with climate change, business with climate change, and a dedicated digital marketing degree. And the important thing here is that this is responding to market needs, industry needs. So the overlap between business, human resources, organisational behaviour and human psychology is fundamental. Marketing and psychology are a very natural combination, and you can see that both business and economics play fundamental inputs into the climate change debate, and lots of industries are now seeking their graduates to have an ethical understanding of how that manipulates behaviours in the workplace and decisions that are being made. So I've mentioned that there's a common first year. So key subject areas in year 1 would include a basic understanding of economics, understanding the economy. You would have to have fundamentals of accounting and finance, and similarly you'd have to have fundamentals of management and business. Now you may ask the question why. It's because basically whatever degree discipline you do in the business school, you have to understand economics, you have to understand the fundamentals of A&F, and you have to understand the fundamentals of management and business operations. In the second semester then you will start your specialisation into marketing principles if you're a marketer, principles of tourism management, data and analytics, and you have other options as well you can take, so electives, okay, but they are core depending on your degree scheme. When you move into year 2 you become highly specialised. So in year 2 80% of your content, your module area, is directly related to your degree scheme, and it's quite easy to have 100% dedicated to your degree interest. So if you're interested in marketing, you can do 120 credits in marketing modules, marketing related modules. One of the things that we do take very, very sort of seriously is your future employability. We ensure that you have the best possible time when you study with us, and we ensure that you will build the skills and competences to be effective. And to do that we have dedicated modules that focus on employability outcome, and this is just a few of them, this isn't a whole list. So we've got employability skills for professionals, which is a module which is open to any third year within the business schools. We have applied marketing management. That's available to about 70% of the total third years in the business school. For example, we have modules such as digital business and management strategy, and they look at how to actually implement business and management strategies. Alongside these modules, we have enterprise hubs, we have executive masterclasses, we have industry professionals that come in and provide perspectives, and you've also got your own dedicated careers interface. You have somebody who's dedicated to helping you as a business school graduate, a business school student, in achieving your employment goals. And we work with local companies and undertake collaborative projects together, and this is one of the companies that we work with on one of the modules that is taught in the third year. Now obviously you want to explore your passion a bit further. If you want to do this, then the easiest way is to go to courses.aber.ac.uk and then just search for the information that you want. You may have done that already. I would strongly recommend that you take a close look at the content within that area. It's very useful for you to understand what the focal attributes of the degree that you're interested in is. So that hashtag business and management is obviously for the business and management, but it would be hashtag marketing, hashtag tourism management, hashtag accounting and finance. You get the idea. And that's what it looks like when you get there. Pretty consistent, pretty similar to what you'd see in just about any university. So let's just have a quick think about where our graduates end up. So these are examples from students who graduated approximately 3 years ago. Hannah Rafferty, when she studied with us, decided to take a year out study actually, and she went to Australia to study for a year, came back to the United Kingdom, continued her studies with us, has got a very, very, very effective career trajectory. What's really fascinating about Hannah is that she actually created her own business idea. She defined the market that was undermet, identified who the competitors were, found a position, and then was given the project to manage for the company. She's since moved on from McGregor Boyle, but the skills and competences that she was provided, i.e. market research and the development of new products, were used quite heavily in her defining that role. Hannah earns considerably more than the vast majority of lecturers in the business school, and she's about 24. This is Dan Phoenix. Dan left us, degree in marketing, was working for Clicky Media. I won't say he was working for now, but I wrote a reference for him quite recently, and he's actually working for the world's largest media company as an account manager for a certain part of digital marketing. And here he's given a seminar to paying customers on how you would merchandise digitally to create selling environments. You can see this was less than a year out of his degree when this photograph was taken, and interestingly each one of those people are paying about £400 for that session. So you can see that he's generating considerable revenue for his audience. But I would say you shouldn't be looking at the screen. You should always be looking at the audience, but I think he's explaining something on the screen. This is Ebenezer Ebbs. Started off with the business school, undertaking accounting and finance. He didn't like accounting and finance, and accounting and finance liked him even less, and he transferred over to a different degree scheme. He's now a strategy and project manager at Everything Everywhere, or EE, and his charismatic personality is going to ensure that he goes very, very far in the industry that he's very, very passionate about. And what he did is he partnered working for EE with a full-time degree and achieved a great outcome. So the other ones have been pretty much business to consumer. Business to consumer and business to business. I introduced Alex because Alex is very much a trade marketing manager, so he works for Reckitt Benckiser, and that means that he deals with fast-moving consumable good multiples, so companies like Tesco and John Lewis, for example. and he's working in the trade, so huge accounts, tens or hundreds of millions of pounds worth of business, and he's a particularly effective relationship marketer is what Alex does. And then finally, this is Alex, and she's at this point she's a go-to-market executive, so she helps unicorns. Now, a unicorn is a company that is worth a lot of money but has very little revenue. Think of a sort of tech startup. She helps tech startups go to market. So she helps them create their business strategy, their financial strategy, and in particular, she is helping them with their marketing strategies. So you can see that our graduates very quickly after completing their first degree or their second degree, all of the ones I've shown you were just first degrees, bachelors, BScs, go on to do great things very, very quickly. And what we desperately try to do and we focus on is to ensure that we nurture the talent that comes to us, and when it leaves us, when individual graduates leave us, such as Alex, they leave us with the core competences and skills and the confidence to be able to translate all this knowledge into their career trajectories and to facilitate a work environment that they're very passionate to be in. An easy way to explain the structure of a business and management degree is to take a look at an organisational chart. And this will really outline the fundamental disciplines that we teach to business and management students. And it'll also explain why they're fundamentally important, and they're interrelated. And what good business and management degrees do is they allow you to understand how all these different areas fit together, and they give you a very good exposure to the most important elements of those particular categories. So if you think about leadership, management and leadership have been explored since the turn of the century, really, i.e. the 19th century, with regards to trying to make organisations more effective. So we'd look at forms of decision making, whether we've got democratic decision making, whether we have the ruler type of leader who everybody looks up to and is inspired by. Think of the general in the army in a war, for example. But now what we have to look at with this leadership is we have to look at the impact of diversity on leadership and how we modify the way we lead when we develop trans-global organisations, because the cultures within the countries that we're working with will be fundamentally different to the home country culture. So globalisation and the impact of multiculturalism has a large impact on how we lead and how we manage, and the ever-increasing speed of innovation and the necessary development of something called agile or lean processes also mean that leadership is much more fluid and dynamic than it was even 25 years ago. So leadership is underpinned by strategy, and strategy really looks at several elements. What do we intend to do? Where are we now? How do we get there? How will we know we've arrived? And basically, strategy looks at the focus of the strategy with regards to the most profitable markets for the organisation. But it also looks at how we form that strategy and then how we deliver that strategy and what investments we need to undertake. And there are several significant strategic frameworks that we can explore in this context. And strategy is also about how the organisation learns, and they look at what sort of successful strategists do, because ultimately all organisations are in constant change. And strategic change, efficiency and flexibility is what most organisations are trying to build into their arsenal of capabilities and competences. And again, strategy now is not just necessarily within an organisation, but it's actually within the value chain of the organisation, the supply chain and the customer chain. So if you think about how Esso has partnered with Tesco to provide great sort of experiences at a forecourt where basically it becomes the equivalent of a corner shop and also a fuel station. And that would be a cooperative strategy. Now, this is all underpinned by how the organisation chooses to finance. So when Amazon first launched, it was seeded by what's known as venture capital funding. And that's a high risk, high return funding strategy. Good ideas are invested in. And the unusual element of Amazon is they managed to finance a loss-making operation for many, many years, well over a decade. They were a significant loss-making organisation. And what they were doing in that 12 years is they were using that investment to ensure that their strategy, their operations, their resources and their supply chain were world-class. World-class in the context of Walmart, which when they were actually forming Amazon, was the most prodigiously capable supply chain in FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. So in finance, you're looking at how you use financial data to support decision making, so financial accounting, and also you'll explore management accounting components. And in this also you'll understand what happens with short and long term investments. And the Arcadia Group, Philip Green, went into a CVA in 2019 and was wound up fully in the spring of 2021. And basically we can see that there's an environment of stakeholders that fundamentally impact the success or the continuation of an organisation. Now, this obviously is underpinned by technological development. There's no way we can escape the fact that technology fundamentally alters the way that we engage with our consumer base. And the more recent elements of technology that are particularly interesting would be the concept of automation and the impact that automation is going to have on employability, especially for low-skilled jobs, with millions in the UK alone being lost to the emergence of automation. And Amazon is at the forefront of this as well, strangely enough, and they're looking at how they can use robots for picking, packing and storing in their warehouses. And the whole point is to try and improve efficiency. So we're back to that strategic cost leadership perspective. And digital innovation is accelerating, and a recent pandemic has shown us that technology facilitates where physical or face-to-face activities are no longer able to be delivered effectively. And realistically, in this technology area, you'd also be considering how digital trends shape your career. And what we try to do in the business school is provide you with a very good view to how an organisation requires skills and competences, and we expose you to what they are in a strategic, tactical and operational manner. And that leads us on to operations. Operations is the day-to-day running, the month-to-month running of the organisation. And realistically, it's about how we solve business problems. Whichever vertical domain we end up working in as professional business managers, we will be responsible for making decisions on an operational basis, especially early on in our career. So it's about solving business problems, it's about how we implement innovations and how the strategy allows us to do that in an effective, road-mapped manner. So when we look at operations, one of the good ways of looking at operations is to look at case studies, things that work particularly well, but the best way you learn in business is by exploring the mistakes you make. It's a bit like when you're learning a skill or improving your sporting prowess. It's what you get wrong that really helps you define what you get right. And organisations try to remove as much of that getting wrong by the processes that they employ. Marketing, if you'd like to know more about marketing, there's a separate presentation on marketing which I would strongly recommend that you explore. But fundamentally, marketing looks at how we communicate value to our stakeholders, our consumers, in marketing terms what we call audiences. And marketing really is where innovation, creativity and intuition form the basis of value. And by value, I mean profitability. And profitability is driving the whole of that operation. So that organisational chart in front of you is all being driven by the efficacy of the marketing performance. And where performance is good, finances improve, customers are happy. So we'll finish on resources. I'm not going to talk about supply chain because we've been talking around supply chain all this time. Well, resources are the physical and the human assets that we use to deliver our value proposition to our consumer. And within resources, if you think about how Amazon has managed to deliver products to most consumers in most of its markets in an uninterrupted manner compared to the stockouts that the traditional and high street leaders have not been able to. And they've done that because their strategy is different, they've been led in a different way, their operations is basically a digital storefront. So their resources are focused, their human resources are focused about making that environment as effective as it possibly can. And to do that, they have to select and train talent. And that's what you are. When you leave a business school, you are talent. You're quite nascent talent, but your talent, and big organizations want to adopt your energy, your focus, your intelligence, and blend it into their environment so that they become more effective. And to do that, they consider reward structures and reward systems, and they look at how the organizational management of the company or organization is structured. So for example, organizations like Google provide their workers with 1/10 of their working time as a sub-project. So if you work for them for one afternoon or one morning a week, you get to work on a project which has been passed but you're passionate about. You can't just work on any project, it has to go through a vetting process. That sounds fabulous, and people think I really want to work for Google because the typical salary in Google is about £160,000. What they don't tell you is that most Google employees work about 80 to 90 hours every single week. So this half a day that they get to work on their pet projects is completely overwhelmed by the additional unpaid overtime they do for their other activities. And there's no harm in that. The people working there want to do it. They're not forced to do it. They're developing their careers and they're passionate and they're driven. And that's what we try to output. That's our output measure, is that we have very high employability of our graduate business and management candidates. And they get taken up by very large organizations. Okay, thank you very much.